Hi guys, you're welcome to my channel. Thank you for stopping on my space today. So today's tutorial is basically going to be detailed and precise, and I'll be sharing with you guys how to cut and sew this milkmaid jumpsuit I'm wearing right here. And one unique thing with this milkmaid pattern I used here is that you can actually adjust it to your bust size. So this is what I'm going to be explaining right here on this video on how I got to achieve this, and without much ado, I'll just get started with this video.
So in the making of this dress, I used 3 yards of this fabric you see right here, and I went ahead to cut out this paper, which will be enough for my upper basic bodice. So firstly, the line at the top of this paper is my starting point, and that is my shoulder line automatically. I went ahead to divide my shoulder of 14 inches into 2, which I marked right there, and the neck width I'm using right here is 2 inches, and the neck depth I use is 2 inches, but that's not too necessary because we will not be making use of all of that point. So on that point I got my shoulder, I went ahead to mark 8 inches, and I'm going ahead now to connect all of these lines this way because I'm going to create an armhole now. So I divided these 8 inches into 2. I got the midpoint and I made the mark there, and I came in by half an inch on that mark I made on the midpoint. And on this line I divided my bust circumference of 38 inches into 4, and I marked what I have right there, and I went ahead to connect like this and created an armhole. So the next I will do is to start from my shoulder line. I'm going to mark my bust point of 10 inches, my underbust of 13 inches, and my half length I'm working with right here is 15.5 inches, and you can see that's what we have as the length of this paper. So that is it. So the full length of this paper will be is the exact measurement for my half length. I hope you understand. So I'm going ahead now to label all of this: my chest line, my bust point, my underbust, and my top length. So after that, now I'll divide my nipple to nipple point of 7 inches into 2, and right here I have 3.5 inches. So I made all these points on all of these lines, and I'm simply going to use my ruler to connect all of these points which I made right here. So under my dart which I created, I'm going to come out at both sides by half of an inch, and I'm just going to connect this upward, but it's not really going to get a slightly also up to my bust point line. So on my underbust, I went ahead to measure my underbust circumference, and I went ahead to mark what I got right there. And also on my waist, I went ahead to mark what I got right there on my waist. So I'm going ahead now to connect this together from my chest line to my underbust and up to my full basic bodice length. Okay, so after this, now I'm going to replace this my dart intake of 1 inch. So this is how I normally replace my dart, because your dart replacement is meant to start from exactly where you created your dart. Okay, so having done that, I'll come to my underbust. That's the line labeled UB, and I'm going to come up by 1 inch just like this from that line, and on exactly that I created, that's my nipple to nipple point, I'm going to divide my nipple to nipple point again into 2 and add half of an inch. So right there I marked 4 inches. So here I'm trying to create a cup. So now from the 1 inch I went up by from my underbust, I'm simply going to connect it up to my dart leg. Okay, so you can see how this was created. And for this other side, I went ahead also to place this my curved ruler very well, and you can see as I went ahead to curve this very well. Please do ensure you place your ruler very well to get this curve. Okay, so guys, you can see what I have right here now. So on that my chest line, I'm just going to extend that line. So right here you can actually maintain this your chest line if you want to show enough cleavage, but me, I didn't want to show any cleavage. So from that my chest line, I went up by 2 inches. Okay, you can go up by more inches if you want, depending on how covered you want this to be, or you can maintain your chest line. Okay, so after that I went ahead to mark 1 inch, which is going to serve as my seam or my stitching allowance. So I'll go ahead and curve like this, and at that my at that point is a bit curved, so I'll make use of this my curved ruler to connect. So we are done drafting this. I'll just cut out for this upper part and also the sides and my armhole as well. So having cut these out, I'm going to go ahead to use this and draft for my back bodies before I will finish up with the front part of this dress. So I'm going to get started by coming to the edge of this paper which I want to use to draft for my back bodies, and I'm going to start by marking 1/2 inch, as you can see right here. I'll use my ruler and connect these dots, and I'm going to place this my already drafted front bodies on that line. Okay, so you can see it's not starting from the edge of my paper, it's starting from that line right there. So I'm going to use my marker to trace out the exact way and shape which I cut this my front bodies. Okay, so you can see I traced the armhole, the sides, and now the base of this my dress, and also the top area. So this is just to enable me to get exactly what I had for the front instead of going all ahead to start drafting from afresh. Okay, so I place that aside now, and I'm going to cut out for the cup part of this my front basic bodies. So you can see what it looks like after cutting out. So I'm just going to place this aside to finish up with the back bodies. So I'm going to extend all of these lines which I already traced out from the front bodies, and I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple of 3.5 inches, and I'll connect it up to my bust point. I'm also going to create a waist dart by coming out at both sides of this my dart by 1/2 inch, and also connect this way but not getting up to my bust point line. So now under my zipper area, I'm going to create a zipper slope by coming up by 5 inches and also connecting this way. So this is going to enable me to eliminate the bulginess which always appears at the back of your zipper or your dress. So you can give this any neckline shape you wish to give. I gave mine a little bit of curve, and that was just it. So go ahead and cut out every other thing the same way you drafted. So after that, now I'm done with the upper part of this jumpsuit. I moved over to the down part, which is the trouser part of this my jumpsuit. So firstly, I folded this my fabric into 2, and from the edge I started by marking 4 inches. So after marking these 4 inches, I'll simply use my ruler to connect all of these dots. So after that, I'm going to rule a line at the top area. I'm going to rule about 1 inch, but later I'll cut off about 1/2 inch because the top part is rough. Okay, so after that, now from that line I marked at the top is going to be my waistline, and I divided my waist into 4 and marked what I had. I marked my hip measurement, my hip length of 9 inches and my crotch length of 12 inches. So please do note that this is a jumpsuit and your crotch is meant to be long but not too long. Okay, so I marked my knee line of 18 inches, and the next is my full length plus my 1 inch for hemming of 44 inches. So after that, now come over to my hip and divide my hip circumference by 4, and whatever it is I have, I'm going to start marking from that line. Hope you can see where I placed this. So my hip is 10 inches and I placed from that line just like that. So the next, I went ahead to connect my waist to my hip length. So you can see what I have right here, and whatever I have, I'm going to extend it to my crotch line. That is the second line, the third line, sorry, from the top part of this fabric. So under my crotch line is where I'll be dividing my tie or my lap into 2. So I'm working with a lap or tie of 25 inches, which divided into 2 is 12.5, which I marked right there. But if you watch closely, you will notice that it exceeded the 4 inches allowance which I gave, so you have no issues. So from that line, I went up by 1.5 inches to create a curve for this trouser.
So on this my crotch line again, I'm going to divide this 12.5 into two and get the midpoint. So I made the point right there, and on my knee line, which is the other line underneath my crotch line, I'm going to extend that line, that center line I made up to my knee line. So whatever it is I have here, I'm going to subtract just half of an inch from my thigh circumference and place that on my knee line. So here I'm working with 12 inches. So that 12 inches, I went ahead to place 6 inches on that center line, and I marked 6 inches at both sides. I hope you understand what I mean. So I'm still going to extend that line from my knee line all the way to my full length. So why I'm doing this like this is because this is a palazzo jumpsuit, is not fitted. So I'm also going to subtract half of an inch from what I had on my knee line on my full length. So right there I have 11.5 inches. So I'm going to place the half of 11.5 inches on that center line, and at both sides I'll mark the remnant of what I have. Okay, so I went ahead to connect all of these together from my knee line all the way to my full length. So I'll go ahead now and cut out every other thing just exactly the way I drafted. So this is it, what I have. I separated the both. So the next I'm going to draft is for the back. So you can see that I have my fabric folded into two already, and I went ahead to place my already drafted front trouser panel on it, and on that crotch area I'm coming out by 1 inch. Okay, so you can see how I'm marking this 1 inch, and at the other side from beneath my crotch I'm going to mark just 2 inches up to my full length and also connect this way. So now in order to avoid this trouser being tight on you, you are going to add 1 inch at the side, that is the hip side, the part I'm cutting right here. You can see that I didn't add anything to mine, but I'll advise you do, but most times I don't add mine. Okay, but always add half of an inch at that 1 inch on that hip side, so that it doesn't get too tight on you. Okay, so that is just that, and I went ahead to trace out and cut out every other thing the same way I drafted. So now I'm done drafting for the trouser part. I'll move over to the upper part, or the basic bodice part of this jumpsuit. So I went ahead now to bring my front basic bodice and my back. I'm going to place this aside because I'm going to be working on this cup area. So I'm just going to get started by slashing and spreading this cup. Firstly, I'm going to mark 1.5 inch apart, just like this, which I'll later on use a ruler to connect this dot into a straight line. So I'm going to label this to enable me place this accordingly the way it is, and after that I'm going to slash this open. So after cutting this out, I'm just going to get my fabric that is long enough for my spreading, because after slashing the next thing is to spread. But before that, after folding this fabric into two, which is going to serve for the two cups, okay, I'll start by ruling a line on this fabric. So that line is going to be my guide, because the base of all this paper will be stopping on that line, so that I don't have one longer than the other. Okay, so when I'm pinning this, you understand the explanation I gave right here. So it's going to serve as my guide, which is this line I just marked right here. So you can see what I have right here, but firstly I'm going to start by marking 1 inch from the edge of my fabric So I'll mark this 1 inch and place my number 1 paper on this. So you will notice that the base of this my paper is exactly on top of this my line. So that's the essence. And here I'm spreading by 3 inches. So you can decide to spread by 1.5, 2 inches, 2.5, even more than that, but just know the more inches you give this while spreading, the bigger and fuller is going to be. Okay, so that's just the difference. It's just going to be fuller than that of the person who spread by 3 inches. So I placed my number 1, my number 2, my number 3, and I'll also place my number 4 and 5, and all of the inches I'm using to spread here are all the same, 3 inches. So this is my number 4. I'll mark 3 inches and place my number 5. So after this, now I'm going to cut out, but listen very carefully. At the top area and at the down and at the side, you're going to give this 1/2 inch. The only part that will not be giving allowance is from the edge of my fabric, because I already marked 1 inch before placing this my paper. So you can see at the side, at the base, and at the top area I gave about 1/2 inch. And now I went ahead to divide the folded fabric part. I don't know if you understand. So the next, I'm going to place my front bodice on this my fabric folded into 2. So remember that at the base I didn't give this my joining allowance to the trouser part, and also on the cup area I'm also going to leave about 1/2 inch. Okay, so do it for the top part and also the cup area, and also remember to notch your dart. So I did the same for this part. I gave 1/2 inch for the joining allowance and 1/2 inch at the top area for folding. So that is what I did right here. So you can see what this looks like. Open is having this W shape already. So this is all I have after drafting all of this. So I'm going to be uploading the second part of this tutorial, which is going to be the joining parts, because this tutorial was a bit long. So do stay tuned. I will soon upload that. And this is the outcome of this beautiful milkmaid jumpsuit. I'd love to see you try this out, honestly. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you some other time on this channel. Bye.